Indeed.
Let's put no audio. Once you get to feedback. Share the screen.
I'm missing it now. Where is it? I don't have it yet, do I? Share my webcam.
You connected?
Yes. Beautiful.
It's hide webcams as well. Webcams and just do hide. Hide all webcams.
Perfect. Cool. So I stand in between you lot and lunch. Always a nice place to be. I apologise for that in advance. Oh, right. Every time I do that now. I don't know now. It's getting there. Right one? Yeah, I only have two screens when I actually press the present button. But, no, it's not good. Okay, that's good. So I liked James's presentation. Alexas definitely have some alternative use cases, right? So anybody got teenagers? Yeah, do they come down for dinner ever?
I don't know that one.
Brilliant. So you can announce something to her now, and when you do that, it plays it on all the devices in your house. So if any of you have trouble with this, put a dot on every floor, right, and announce that dinner's ready. So don't come down, just play some 80s music or whatever, as loud as you like, turn them all up to the full volume, and they make their way downstairs pretty quick. Right, that definitely works. Okay, so I think I'm gonna have to stay fairly fixed, aren't I, this time? So I'm dragging you right back down to the weeds, and I'm talking about lab builds and how you automate them and save some of your time. So we've had cloud, and we're now coming right back to the ground, possibly a garage or an attic or a bookshelf, all right, as you're going to see. So by way of introduction, I am Lee Jeffries. I'm an independent IT consultant. I like to come and talk at these events and some others. There's my Twitter handle and my blog site. I write about things that I usually work on, so pretty agnostic, but most of my experience it's in end user compute and usually Citrix related tech. So, well, actually, funny you should ask. Actually, Nick, right? No, it's not my pet cat. I went to feed a tiger, right, which I thought was a brilliant gift. And you think they're really beautiful and they're really pretty. They're not when you get back close to them. Okay, it's terrifying when they give you a bit of meat and you have to push it through the bars and the fence. I think if they got hold of your arm, they'd definitely rip it off with no problem. But it was fun doing that anyway. So agenda. I want to talk a little bit about self-investment and how much time you spend learning. Obviously, relating to labs, it's quite a key point. I want to talk about examples of labs, what people are using for their own hardware. Okay, so I posted out on Twitter before this presentation, asked people to give me some examples of their labs, and I'll show you my lab. And I got some examples, right, from lots of different people, some with access to cloud, some without access to cloud. But it doesn't really matter what you use. And then I'm going to touch on lab automation and just one method really of automating your lab builds so that you're not spending your time when you're trying to learn software behavior or test out a new release. You're not spending time building it manually. You're actually just going to kick it off and it will be there for you to do the bit you need to do as quickly as possible. I've got some demo videos. Last time I was at a CUCG, I did a live demo for SD-WAN. The live demo didn't work, so I'm skipping the live demo today. I've got videos instead. And then we'll talk about customization. So I'm going to talk about something in particular. Okay, so who has a lab? Who has an on-prem lab? Brilliant, there's quite a few hands there. Cool. How many of you have to manually build your lab? Your software installs, your applications? Cool, brilliant. Then this will be useful for you. Who has a lab in the cloud? It's got to be you, isn't it, Jim? So the amount of people that sent me cloud gifts when I asked for this, or just a picture with a row of racks. Definitely. Was it actually Azure then?
Yes, it was.
Oh, right. Oh, fair enough. So self-investment. This is the important part, right? A lot of us have full-time jobs. Some of us are consultants. If you're a consultant, you have to have one of these or somewhere to test the latest software, right? But even if you're employed, you still have to invest in yourself. Right? If you don't invest in yourself, there's no way you can progress. Okay, so having some sort of play space to do these things is important. And also, your employer doesn't necessarily have to pay for it, I would have thought, but they should encourage you or give you some sort of incentive to learn and progress your skills. It's in their interest, right? So always do that if you're not. So out of curiosity, who self-studies for exams and is not funded? Quite a few hands. Okay. Who has an employer that pays for courses? Lucky people. Hey? Lucky people, time and money. All right, cool. So that's like 50-50 split. So that's actually pretty good. So lab examples. I can't see my PowerPoint slides on my screen for some reason, so I'm having to like crane my neck around. So I just tagged some of these people in, right? But you can see from these examples, some people have got their lab on a bookshelf. Other people have got bookshelves of hardware and equipment. Some people have got it in their garage, and it ranges, right? Some people are using desktop machines, little nooks to do a lab, or whatever you've got, really. It doesn't really matter what you're using, but we range from these things. Some of these people are in the room, so you know, I'll let you try and find that out. You just have to work out which pictures line up with which people. All right, and then we've got nice pretty ones like this. So I ran over this presentation just for timing with my wife yesterday, and she looked at these cables and she commented on how beautiful the cables were. I was pretty proud of that, right? And it was all good until I went to the next slide. Oh no, hang on yet. A lot of people said cloud, forgot about that bit. So I went to this one, which is my lab, and then she started to slag off my cabling skills, which I didn't appreciate, but I did sort of see her point. It's all nice when you first put it in there, but the more you add, the more messy it gets, and well, if it works, it works. So this is what I'm running, and this is what I've used for the demos that I'm going to show you. So I've got a couple of very small super micro boxes at the top. They're just like 8-core Atom boxes. I've got two E300 8Ds. They're pretty good kit actually. They're quite beefy, and they're quite capable boxes. I've got a couple of UniFi switches because the home networking stuff is all UniFi, and then I've got a couple at the bottom, a couple of HP microservers, one old, one new. All right, but in total it gives me 42 cores, 184 gig of RAM, and all the VMs run on NVMe or SSD. Now, I have to have this to do my job. I have to have the lab because whatever project I'm working on, I'm prepping something in the lab usually, or testing some sort of behavior so that it's predictable. And the behavior bit is really the important part, right? The building it is usually the easy part. It's actually knowing what happens when you click the buttons. So I talked about the E300s. These are pretty well known, okay? Because they've got lots of network connectivity, and it is actually a server based board, so it's got out of band management, and as you can see, it can take up to 128 gig, plus the NVMe makes it really fast. Alternatively, the sort of lower end, I use these for SD-WAN demos, put XenServer on them, stick a VM on it, and you can fit a 4-port PCI card in. That's what I used in Glasgow, the one that didn't work. It wasn't the box that didn't work, it was just the Wi-Fi connectivity that didn't work. So they range in price, but these are pretty affordable, right? So hypervisor options. I've covered a few here. Now, these are pretty much free. So you've got XenServer's free. I know everybody loves XenServer. You've got Nutanix Community Edition. Now, I've got to give it its dues. That's actually really good. It's full-blown Nutanix, just with community support only, but it works really well. It's pretty slick. Native KVM, if you fancy lots of command line fiddling around, I didn't like it. I didn't spend long with it. Hyper-V, okay, you don't have to activate Windows to use it in a lab, and you can run Hyper-V VMs. And then you've got VMware Advantage, which is a paid-for thing. So I know we're at Citrix user community group, but if you want licenses for VMware products, you can pay the money. I think that was about right, $200 a year, and you can get some licenses to run vSphere in your home lab. So pretty much whatever you want to run, whatever you're using or you need to use for a project, you can pretty much spin up anything you like. Okay, and what I'm showing you here will work across any type of hypervisor. So in my lab, I have Microsoft Deployment Services or MDT. I have Domain Controller, Citrix Controller all in one with Storefront Directory and FAS. I have a session server and a Windows 10 VDI. All of that is built automatically. I don't perform any steps, not even to install applications and Office and stuff like that. It's all part of this flow, which is free for you to be able to download when I come to show you what it is. So manually building that literally takes me between 6 and 8 hours, right? And that's me sitting there doing it quickly. Probably take a bit longer than that if you've never done it before, which is the key point, right? It doesn't matter if you've done it before or not, you want it to be speedy. So automated deployment, I can kick off all those machines building pretty much at the same time and it'll take 2 hours. And I don't even have to watch it. So how do we do this? I'm using something called Automation Framework Community Edition, which is done by Eric, or Zenap Blog is his Twitter handle. Okay, that's free. You literally just go on his website, sign up for it, download his scripts, and he's done most of the hard work for you. He uses MDT to deploy the applications in the OS. You literally insert an ISO into a VM, which is a pre-prepared disk image with Windows PE. If you've used SCCM or MDT before, it's the same process. It's nothing new there. Select a few options, sit back and wait, and it's going to deploy your machines. So, is it relevant to you? Well, via the questions and the hands up, yes, it is. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're doing it in the cloud either. There's some options for actually running this stuff in the cloud, but you do still need the MDT server. That could sit on your laptop or your desktop machine. So, no more upgrades. All right, infrastructure as code because you're maintaining your task sequences. That's the automated flow of actions within MDT that will build the machines for you. Ease of testing. You're not going to get any errors in builds, and this is portable as well, right? Even if you are running your own business, there's nothing to stop you building your task sequences and exporting that VM, taking it to a client site and using it there. It's still going to work. So reliable outcomes. Make sense? Yeah. That was a unanimous nod, even before lunch. So what I want to walk through is configuring this. Okay, I've got a video demo which I'll be talking through at like 100 miles an hour. Editing it probably took me the longest amount of time and speeding the bits up because the build process isn't particularly fast. But what do you need to do? You sign up on the Zenap Blog website, you download the scripts. He has something embedded, or he recommends you use, called VYOS, which is a software-based router. So his setup is actually based around you having a network with a specific IP range, and you do that with that software router. Okay, you don't have to use it if you can set up your own networking with the same subnet. That's fine too. So important parts when you run the scripts. Make sure you've got the 2016 ISO in the drive already mounted on the VM because it sucks part of that out to do the automated builds. Make sure your admin password for the community edition is set to that, okay, because it uses that to communicate with the MDT share when it's running the task sequence. And make sure you've got whatever hypervisor you're using, make sure the tools are installed. It will pick up whatever tools you're using and it will pull those into that image for you so that you've got your optimized drivers during the build process. If you don't do that with XenServer, and there's another little tweak for that, then your builds will probably take about 6 hours because the network card runs at about 10 meg. It's not fun. Then you'll think, oh, that was crap. Lee gave us some really rubbish information there. So once you've run the scripts, it gives you an ISO. Pop that wherever your hypervisor can access it, put it in a VM, and you boot it up and you're off. It's going to start building stuff. So that's what it looks like. Cool. So you can see here, I've got a folder on the drive. It's called source. That's where I've downloaded the scripts and put it in there. It's just one script. Remember to run PowerShell as an admin and set your execution policy to bypass. It's just because it's going to kick off a lot of other scripts in a sequence. You don't want it prompting you in the middle. And this is going to be really quick, right? So about a minute for probably about an hour. So you run the script, it runs off, grabs the latest ADK, it downloads everything you need. All you need is an internet connection. All right, so it installs ADK. Once it's installed the ADK, it then pulls in from the 2016 ISO that's mounted, pulls the WIM file in from that into MDT. So this is setting up all the roles, downloading all the dependencies, installing them. It imports all the task sequences, all the applications, and then it updates the deployment share. So you literally don't have to do anything to set this up. It's like an all-in-one MDT box that's just going to build you VMs. So that's quick, wasn't it? Okay. As I mentioned, Zen Server Tools. Okay, there's a small tweak you have to do to get this to work in MDT for it to actually use the right network drivers. If it uses a standard Realtek driver, it's very slow. All right, so you just tick this box at the bottom, you edit your deployment share on the Windows PE tab, and then tick that box, regenerate your ISO, and you're off, you're good to go. So I've now got my MDT server set up, I've got an ISO. This is what happens when you create a VM. Sorry about Zen Server. I get a lot of stick for that, especially from Alex at E2E. If you see him later, actually, talk to him about Zen Server. Tell him how much you love it. So MDT build. So there's nothing clever in here. I'm literally just putting the ISO in. You can see I called it afce.iso and just standard machine build. So I've just given it a couple of gig of RAM, a couple of processors, 40 gig disk space, and attached it to the right network. So for reference, it's a 192.168.1.0/24 network that is required. Just needs an internet connection, there's nothing else. So once Zen Server's built that, just look in the console and you'll see it booting up with that ISO. That bit's not sped up, that's real time. Okay, so it runs off and it connects to the MDT server and reads everything it needs. Tell it where you are in the world. It grabs all the task sequences from the MDT server to display those to you, to give you an option of what it is you want to build. Now, I don't think I can pause this, so you'll have to look really quick. But in this list, so we've got the option to build something in the cloud. We've got the options here to build lots of different types of servers. What I've gone for is just a standard RDSH. I've already got a DC in the lab, so I'm just building something there pretty easily. So give it a name, give it your domain details, and it's going to run off, build it, connect it to your domain. The only annoyance with the community edition, but you can change it, is you have to set your regional settings, your keyboard layout, your time and date, things like that. Right? If that's not necessary for you, though, you can edit some of the settings into MDT so you don't see those options. Lovely. All right, so times 16 speed or whatever I set it to. So after a reboot, it deploys the WIM file, copies the WIM file, which is the 2016 image, to the hard drive that you've given the VM, configures that to boot, and then kicks you into Windows and starts doing the stuff. Now, like I said, MDT isn't new. It's been around for years, and it's sort of standard practice for deploying Windows builds. What I like about this is that Eric has gone to all of the trouble to actually give you all of the PowerShell scripts and all the automation for free to install everything you need. So as you can see here, what it's running through, it's deploying, it disabled SMB1. There's a number of tweaks that it makes. It deploys C++ redistributables, .NET Framework 4.7. There's a ton of stuff that he's added to this, and I won't go through all of them. But I mean, this video plays for a little while, right up to the point where the machine reboots one more time, and then it kicks straight into a BizF. If you don't know what BizF is, it's a scripting framework for sealing an image once you've finished making changes to it. And that can be run in an automated fashion as well. So it does pretty much everything that you need to do to get an image ready. So what do we need to do once we've done all that? So we've now got MDT set up, we've got an ISO, we've got a VM that's built. Happy days, I know how it works, I can use it. So what if I want to change it? What if I want to do some fancy stuff that's maybe a little bit more relevant to me? You can edit the task sequences that are in MDT. Okay, you can add your own application installs, and what I did is I just put some links here. Right, I literally just did a bit of research to find examples where people were doing some common tasks with these things and editing them. Right, so have a look at those. Right, but what I've got here on this screen, I'm showing you the sort of layout and what applications and things are installed. Now, as I said to you, I didn't create these. These are all part of that framework. So you've got a Server 2016 bundle, which is all your .NET frameworks, your C++ redistributables. For anyone that has to deploy these things, they're pretty much needed in almost most scenarios. You only know you need it when you go to install an application, so having that stuff on there actually makes your life a lot more easy. The reason they have to be there is because if they're not there, the machine's going to want to reboot halfway through your task sequence before it's going to allow you to install your other applications. But the cool thing is the RDSH 2016 application bundle, that has a list of dependencies, which are these applications. So in order to install that, it has to install all the dependencies. So you end up with an RDSH server that you haven't touched with Silverlight Teams, Firefox, Flash Player, Adobe Reader, Chrome, BizF, and Office 365. So minimum effort for you, really. Okay, so you can literally walk away, as I said, and leave it running. So we've customized our task sequences. I don't want to package all my applications, right? Maybe you've got specific ones you'll have to package and go through some pain with. So there's some nice chaps in the community. Eric's one of them, Aaron Parker's another one. They've actually created an evergreen PowerShell module, and that has a ton of applications included in it. If you install that module, you could just type in, go and get it, it downloads it, it installs it. So you can actually embed that in your task sequences and install the latest copies of all the applications as well. And it won't just be the a specific version you're specifying, although you can. You'll get the latest one every single time. So have a look at those. There's also some set application that Eric has done by himself. What about updating? What about Windows updates? So it's great. I've got my 2016 ISO. It's like 2 years old or whatever. And that's great. So now when my machine reboots, I've got to set my task sequence. I've got to do Windows updates, right? And that's the right pain in the ass too, because it's going to take me more time. Okay, I don't want to do that. So for those of you who've never seen this before, go and check out OSD Builder. What it does, it's another PowerShell framework. Okay, it lets you pull the WIM file off of 2016 ISO or 2019, whatever, Windows 10. It lets you pull that, import that into the framework. It creates like a folder structure for you, and then it lets you actually patch those images offline. So you can tell it to run off, go get all the Windows updates for this image, and it will inject them for you. Once you've done that, you can just drop that directly into that MDT config, and you have the latest OS build with all the patches already pre-applied. Okay, so yeah, go and have a look at that. Get it for free. Nothing stopping you setting this up. Okay, Eric's not paying me anything for this. It's just something that I use in my lab and I find useful because I'm always having to spin up something to test something. Okay, so head over to that blog, get it, run through the checkout, which is free. He's got some training videos that walks you through, probably about 20 minutes, walks you through how to set it up and what it does. Then you're on your own, but you'll work it out. download it and install it. So that's pretty much me done. I'm not standing in between lunch. Only for questions. See how it's handcuffs? I'm holding lunch captive right now. So any questions, guys? Because I'm usually, I have to follow the processes of whatever a business uses normally. So if they're using SCCM and they're manually patching or whatever, I'll make recommendations, but they won't necessarily. One customer took it and loves it. So yes, it works. I've not seen it go wrong yet.
You mentioned the BIOS appliance. I'm assuming that the PXE booting of MDT and the VM is happening in an isolated port group or effectively a VLAN behind that BIOS.
If you were using the BIOS device for doing your routing, then yes, it would be isolated because that's pretty much completely firewalled. So you'd have to let that through if you wanted to. In this particular example, I don't use the PXE booting. Reason being, there is a full-blown version of Automation Framework, which you pay a small fee for, and that comes with a lot more applications and a lot more scripts. And then Eric gives you the updates every time that comes out. So I actually use that. That comes with multiple deployment shares. So you have like a lab deployment share and a production deployment share. And the idea is that obviously you make changes and you test things in the lab one. So I actually use the ISOs to boot the VMs rather than using PXE booting. But in answer to your question, you could turn it on and it would work if you had that router in the right place. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
There's one comment from Guy who's on the webinar saying that ESXi is free, because I think you're talking about paying $200 for the VMware stuff. You can use ESXi if you want.
You can, but you can't use vCenter.
Yes.
So,
standalone.
Yep.
So we have some lunch for you all now. So we're starting back at 2 o'clock. So we've got about 45 minutes for lunch. Again, served just through there.